Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about flood in Nepal. As we all know, just few weeks ago monsoon started in Nepal, and within the period of first 5 days its effect was devastating. Monsoon hit the Palpa, Manang, Putan, Sangja, Lamjung and Bajura district hard, and now the plain land of Nepal. However, Sindhu Palchok was one of the districts affected the most, with more than hundreds of houses inundated and more than 50 people have been missing. And there is a trend when disaster occurs and we talk about like it was never happened, but we along with government forget our responsibility for the rest of the year. Also, do government prepare enough to mitigate the flood? Do government response to flood is only aftermath rather than prevention? There are some queries arise in our mind when disaster happens. Before that, let's discuss, is flood natural or human induced? So my answer for this is it is both. Generally from June to September, Nepal receives 80% of total annual rainfall, and therefore extreme and incessant rainfall trigger flood and landslides naturally. Nepal also have flood due to the glacier lake outburst flow. Nepal is prone to flood and landslide naturally, as its topography mostly contains mountains which are weak and could not hold the constant pressure of water. Almost everywhere in the world, flood causes damage to lives and property. It seems much natural. Some can argue it is due to climate change. It is partly true, but the world was receiving flood from centuries. So, does it give freedom to do any carelessness with nature? No. Flood cannot be stopped, but proper land use planning and flood preparedness could mitigate the effect of this water-induced disaster. As I said, flood could be human-induced. Human-induced flood are due to bank erosion, breach of dam, barrage, embankment. In Nepal, in the recent days, Manang and other districts receives higher rainfall than previous pre-monsoon season. In 17th and 18th July, between 24 hours period of total 228 rainfall measuring station monitored by the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, 213 recorded rainfall, showing the monsoon has widely spread across the country. Precipitation of 50 mm or more is referred as heavy rain and can cause damage. The 5 stations of Sindhu Palchok did not show heavy rain when 73 stations across the country had crossed the heavy rainfall mark, showing the disaster suffered by Melamchi Sindhu Palchok was not entirely because of rainfall. Then what could be the reason behind the disaster of Sindhu Palchok? It is combination of multiple factors, and the first one is earthquake. In 2015, Sindhu Palchok is one of the hardest hit districts in the country. Earthquake second, hills are more prone to floods and landslides during the rain. Second one is heavy road construction. After promulgation of federalism in Nepal, there have been heavy road construction in hills without ample of alternative alignment analysis. Third one is Melamchi water project. The Melamchi water project is one of the needed projects for Kathmandu. Its construction made destruction of fields, which made it weaker. Also, according to news agencies, landslide obstructs the flow of Melamchi river. When the temporary dam broke, water came with great force, flooded anything within its range. It is obvious that landslides in Melamchi Sindhu Palchok contains human factors more profoundly than natural factors. For the sake of development, haphazard road construction without proper risk mitigation strategy taking all over the Nepal. It is hard to say that condition of Melamchi won't be repeated in other districts as well. It is better to learn from mistakes and start thinking about development which could be supported by our terrain. it would be sin if we copy the development model from developed countries where geography are much more stable. Let's develop plan which is suitable for our geology. If we look back the history of disaster incidents and impacts in Nepal from 1900 to 2005, as cited in Kathmandu Post, showed that there were 13,525 disasters were reported during this period, of which 2,740 were incidents of flooding, around 20% of all. In contrast, out of total casualties, figures of around 7.4 million, 3.2 million deaths were during flood events, which accounts for 44%. The highest number of disaster events was recorded in hills, but the highest number of casualties occurred in Terai region. This shows the relationship between upstream and downstream relationship. The Terai saw more than 2.8 million deaths from flooding, nearly 39% of all total casualties during this 105-year period. Besides claiming lives, flood-induced disaster trigger massive property damages, including crop losses across the country. Not only humans, wildlife were also affected equally due to the flood. When outflow from the rivers gushes into wildlife habitat, it destroys their habitat. In 2017, many wild animals from protected area in Terai, mainly in Chitwa National Park, had died after the water from Narayani River entered the park. At least 11 100 rhinos were swept down to India and later brought back to Nepal. The flood water also damaged the grasslands for rhinos and other wild animals. Similar deaths were reported in the other parks like Bardia National Park during flood. According to annual report of Department of National Park and Wildlife Conservation, 18 black bucks died in black buck conservation area in 2017. Besides, various structures erected inside and outside protected areas such as range posts, guard posts, and crocodile breeding center were also damaged. So as we discussed, there were more casualties in Terai region. So why the damages are amplified in Terai? There are ample of reason for this, and the major three reasons are: one of them is topography. So rivers originated in Himalaya region flow and accumulated in plain Terai region, and it affected millions of people in Terai by increasing water level and ultimately flood. Second one is Chure degradation. Year of Chure degradation by extraction of unchecked riverbed extraction such as sand, concrete, and other aggregates have increased flood. Excavation have distorted the water holding capacity and jeopardized the water recharge system, leaving all the flood waters to inundate low-lying plain land. And the third one is urbanization. Unchecked urbanization led to unmanaged and blocked drainage system in cities of Terai and also result in inundation. Also, perennial flooding in Terai was due to encroachment of river banks, shrinking of traditional span and course of rivers and streams, and obstructed flood plans of those rivers. So as a mitigation measure, what were the government responses, or what are the government responses for the disasters? And for this, government have done rescue and rehabilitation. We often say that prevention is better than cure, but in case of flood, this principle has not been applicable from government side. Government agencies was more focused on rescue and rehabilitation of victims, whereas the root cause of frequent incidents of floods and landslide remains unaddressed. Also, government offers compensation for the victims, but it has been sluggish as affected family had been to stay without proper support, food and shelter for a long time. And the second one is early warning system. The country have warning system operated by government and non-governmental agencies at the community level. Department of Hydrology and Meteorology record and analyze meteorological and hydrological data. It has been effective in Nepal for saving lives for few years, but uh, it still doesn't help to solve the root causes of flood in Nepal, which seems more critical. So what could be done for flood management? There are several ways of flood management. Among them, some of them are structural and non-structural flood management ways. And some structural management ways are like embankments, dams and reservoirs, channel improvement, drainage improvement, diversion of flood rivers. And non-structural remedies are floodplain zoning, flood preparedness, flood forecasting, afforestation, public relief. So these tools need to be used to mitigate the effect of flood in time. Although flood is deadliest disaster, but it has still some benefits as well. Uh, if you talk about benefits, it recharges groundwater. And secondly, freshwater flood help in maintaining floodplain ecosystem. Also, it boosts in production for birds. And finally, it helps in facilitation of weather fish to new habitat. So this is all about today's video. Corona is still out there, so be responsible and safe. If you enjoy the video, please like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.